The Guns on Pegs podcast is brought to you by ITAP Group. Hello and welcome to the Guns on Pegs podcast with me, George Brown, and not Chris Horn, but
Jake Wolf.
Today we have a slightly different episode from usual because, first of all, Jake is here instead of Chris, but also because we are together recording in the same room, which is very nice indeed.
Very nice indeed, yeah. It's different, isn't it?
It is. It feels very odd to me still recording in the same room. And the reason Jake's here is because we had our first shoot day on the farm yesterday, which Jake and his lovely wife Laura were honoured guests at. So I thought it would be a great opportunity for us to record together. Jake, before we go any further, out of 10, how good was your shooting yesterday?
My shooting?
Your personal shooting, yeah.
I'm going to say 6. 6 out of 10, that's fair. Just because bag of spanners for a few of the drives. And then, yeah, there was, after lunch, it all changed. And I had a good couple of pegs in the afternoon. They were good fun. And from the person we were going to hear from in a minute, she shouted my name and it was like, Jake! I spun round, a cock pheasant flew over, took it first barrel, but I'm not sure if I actually shot it or if it decided to electrocute itself when it hit the pylons before it touched the deck. So yeah, no, it was, I'm going to say 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10. Well, it's not bad. Start of the season. I think that's okay.
I think that's average, isn't it? You know, just above average, yeah.
Yes, we might get on to averages in a minute. But you've mentioned it already. We also have a very special guest with us today. Our guest today is the mother of my goddaughter. She's an enthusiastic dog handler, picking up with her Cocker Spaniel Spud. She's the de facto head keeper on our family shoot. She's also head of catering and a fantastic hostess, making sure that the party continues long after the guns have fallen silent. She's also my sister-in-law, so deserves a special commendation for putting up with my brother. Please welcome to the podcast, Georgia Brown.
Thank you very much, George. I'm delighted to be here. Very interesting to see how it all runs behind the scenes.
Or doesn't.
Or doesn't. And I'm really enjoying my glass of fizz at whatever time it is.
Before we get on to what's out you're drinking, you're not from a shooting background, really.
No.
But you have embraced the whole thing with great gusto. What is it that you really love about the shoot days we have here? Or is it just stress from start to finish for you?
It used to be stress from start to finish. I think, Jim and I have been together for nearly 10 years now, 9 years. And so I remember going my first days and looking at actually your mum, who was hosting at the time all of the shoots, and thinking, how on earth does she do it? And I think it used to take me a good week's worth of preparation before the day, lots of stress, lots of faffing. But actually, I think one thing your mother has taught me is it doesn't need to be, I don't need to pull all the stops out and stress about the small things. Actually, people love a nice hearty bit of grub, good drink, and as long as you have that, then I think the rest is fine.
So we're going to get a bit more into your process a bit later on.
God.
But it is traditional, even though we've had quite a lot to drink already this weekend, to start these podcasts with a round of what's that you're drinking. Now, Jake, I think you'd better tell us what it is that we're all drinking.
We are on the fizz because I remember from when your dad and yourself was episode, you opened up a bottle of the Claudia, which is a South African sparkling white from the Hemelanard Valley, which I remember listening to it thinking, goodness, I've been there. I know this vineyard and what have you, and this is mine and Laura's favourite region, as we love South Africa as well. And I thought, well, when you gave the invite, what could I bring as a kind of present that would be meaningful to us and to you all? Because if I'm right, and I know I am because you've all told me, this was the fizz at yours and Jim's wedding. So I'm kind of hoping that if you, a 10 out of 10 for shoot day gifts and thank yous, I reckon that's it's got to be up there. But so to be remembered. But it's one of those where it's a really nice drop of bubbles, and I thought, what a weekend to start your first day for the season with a bit of nostalgia, but also in good times going forward. We'll open up this lovely bottle of Claudia.
I mean, it's not often that everybody comes in after a shoot day here and they're greeted by a glass of fizz. So it was a very welcome gift.
As a shoot day gift, it had several virtues, some of which you've already outlined. The other being volume or quantity, and the fact that we're still drinking some.
And we have a bottle in the fridge.
And there's another one in the fridge. The following day indicates that you've ticked all of the boxes. So well done, Jake. And it is a really lovely drop of fizz as well.
It's a really nice drop of fizz.
Next year, if the same again would be great.
For next year, if I make the invite in the cut list for next year,
yes,
what do you go on to do?
You definitely will if this is coming. Yep.
Right, so Georgia, as you know, the way we kick all of these things off is with a game of Whose Bird Is It Anyway? It's the segment where we ask our listeners to send in their shooting quandaries and queries and dilemmas, and we try to sort them out. So this one comes from someone I'm calling Lockhart, who has written, "My situation is this. A good friend of mine, who I know through hunting, had expressed an interest in trying game shooting. So I thought I'd invite him along to a nice driven day to load for me or spectate. He gratefully accepted and excitedly went out and bought some breeks, socks, etc. ready for our day out. On the day in question, we drove to the shoot together, and en route he received a number of calls from various friends. A lot of these calls ended with him receiving advice about shooting straight and so on, which I thought odd, but perhaps just miscommunication with his friends. The actual shoot day went great. Lots of fun was had, especially with the liquid hospitality. I even let him have a couple of shots on the last drive where he bagged his first bird. Excellent. That evening, I spotted a social media post with lots of pictures of himself with my gun and a caption about what an excellent day shooting he'd had, with little to no mention of myself. I then hear from other friends that he'd been telling others that he hadn't been my loader, and we in fact had shared a peg. I'm not one to fuss over social media, but am I wrong to be a little miffed about this situation, considering it was a rather expensive day and I paid an extra chunk to cover the extra hospitality costs? We had an excellent day out, and I would happily invite him along again, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts."
That's a tough one. It's a very personal thing, isn't it? Because, yes, it depends how you feel about... I think I would just perhaps... maybe a bit vexed.
Yeah.
But possibly let it go.
Yeah, I think this is the issue. This is a social media issue almost more than the shooting issue, right? Because it's people want to present the best possible picture of what it is that they've been doing. So my suspicion that this isn't a sort of malicious or a deliberate attempt to falsify anything, more a case of trying to show off.
I was just thinking exactly the same. This is a show-off thing, isn't it? This is a, look at me, I'm out, and I want to be seen in that little square box of social media, but the bigger picture is a good lesson in how media is portrayed, I guess.
I think so. You know, it's one of those sort of funny things. You're right. You know, Instagram, social media life is just... And I'm guilty of it. You know, I post all of the fun things that we do. And actually, if you were just to look through my Instagram, which, I mean, I've got a huge following of about 300 people. If you were to look through that, it's always on holiday. It's fishing. It's the shoot days here. But of course, the other 330 whatever days of the year that we have, it's fairly mundane and quite boring. So, yeah, I suppose in a way I would have to hold my hand up. But to go that far, I'm not sure if I would.
So I guess the question is, what would you do in this situation if you were in our correspondent's shoes? Would you send him a message or give him a call or whatever and say, why are you making out like you've been the one on the shoot day? Why did you tell everybody that you were shooting? Or is there another way of handling that situation?
So this has happened, I think, to all of us more often than not. Maybe not in shooting, but on a day where someone's taken your picture and used it as their own or something like that, and then you come up and see on the gram or on Facebook and what have you.
Ooh, speaking of, I'm going to cut. I've got a story. for
Please
you.
do.
Just thinking of plagiarism.
Oh,
It's happened to me in the last week or so.
What?
Someone has taken one of my Scribehound articles, fed it into AI, produced an AI summary of it, and then used it as their own Instagram caption as if it was their original thought.
Are you going to name names, George?
I'm not going to name names. The person knows who they are.
disgraceful.
I do think it's pretty bad.
How do you? But so, how are you going to deal with that, George? It's a sort of. It's not a dissimilar quandary, is it?
Like this.
Have a highly successful podcast.
It's a slightly different kettle of fish here. I just wonder if the answer here isn't just to take the piss out of the friend.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
A bit.
Definitely.
It sort of gets
Preferably
your
in
point.
public.
Yeah, it needs to be, I think.
It's to the point where you take a picture and then you're like, right, does anyone else want to cop onto this picture, or are we just giving it to him? And
Yeah.
Or send the bill. Oh, so it was your day.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden
You
now
can
you've
cover
just
the
picked up 4,000.
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, or you're half of the gun.
Yeah.
So it was a big day. It's all of a sudden send them an invoice. Yeah,
Yeah.
do that.
I
Like
think that's
that.
possibly the best way to deal with it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I like that a lot. Very good. Well, thank you very much for that email. We are now going on to unpopular opinions.
Oh, hang on.
Oh, go on.
Sorry. Why Lockhart?
Oh, Lockhart. That is a Harry Potter reference. Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh, of course,
was
yes.
always passing himself off to something that he wasn't.
Fantastic. There we go.
How long does it take you to come up with these
That
names?
one was very quick.
Gosh, you're too clever.
Sometimes they're harder. I have been known to be Googling, famous dog names.
Frantically. What does your Google search history look
It's
like?
completely mad. It's very weird. Right, so an unpopular opinion, and this one comes from somebody I've called Jeremy, who has written, "Hi all at Guns on Pegs. This may be a very short and sweet one for the podcast. There seems to be an ongoing debate between our team of guns about the subject of cleanliness in relation to your chosen off-road vehicle. Some of us are under the impression that if you own a 4x4 and use it for shooting purposes, it needs to have the obligatory signs of use in relation to muddy fields and the like. The other, and wrong, section of our syndicate are under the impression that they must always turn up in a pristine vehicle akin to trying to win first prize in a concourse condition show. What are your views on these 2 points of view?"
I don't know what a clean car is. So I shoot or not, I sit firmly in one camp, and that is, not a clean car camp. I don't know many people who come here who have pristine cars. Jake, how's your car?
The same as yours.
Okay.
It's a work truck. It's dogs in the back, children in the front.
That's the wrong way round.
Brilliant. And I'm sure there's a hot chocolate spill on the front seat, which is I think it talks to me now. It's been there that long on the covers. I battle with this because I have a work truck. And it's dusty, it's it's stinky, it's dirty, it's everything like that. But then when I go away and for a weekend to come here, it's a big thing. Laura and I are child free this weekend.
Yeah.
It's been and to get ready, to get the car or the truck clean, it's a big thing. You drive down, you're coming to here, but I just don't have the time.
No. Actually, I lie. We do clean it once a year before our trip to Scotland.
That's only so you can fit more stuff in it.
That, and I don't want to sit in a smelly box for 10 hours. So we do, that's the annual clean.
But I think at work, a particularly a shooting vehicle is a workhorse.
Yes.
I mean, my cars generally are a sort of cross between a mobile wardrobe and also recycling centre. So that, I think it's quite hard to keep a vehicle tidy and clean. Giles Catchpole talks about mucking out the car at the end of the shooting season, which is quite a distressing phrase. But I think I'm deeply distrustful of anyone with a clean 4x4.
Yes.
I
think I'd agree.
I don't love the idea that they can be clean, actually, because if they're doing you've got the 4x4 for the wrong reason.
Well, I think you're right there.
So a good friend of mine who will be listening to this, and he has got the most pristine 4x4. He is a builder by trade. Yeah, he runs an incredibly successful building company, and every time you get in, it's like it's brand new. And I look and I'm like, you've got 2 children. This is superb. And I say to him often, he says, quite Jake, he says, my children don't get in this truck.
That is why.
So I think it's a relationship
That is
between the
why.
amount of children you have and whether or not you sacrifice the family
Actually,
car.
also Jason is a neat freak. Jason,
Our keeper, yeah.
Our keeper. He tuts at Jim. So we've got a new mule, as you know, that came a few weeks ago, and I can see him twitching whenever Jim gets inside it because he knows it's going to be scratched, it's going to be dirty, it's going to be messy within a couple of weeks. So he does, buck the trend a bit, I think. Certainly of a keeper.
Yeah.
With a tidy truck.
I mean, I'd imagine that a keeper's truck ought to be full of spanners and chainsaws and baler twine.
His is, but he's got a box on it's a flatbed.
He does. He's got his
the
tool,
box
so
and
he's
it's
all
sort
tidied
of
away.
Yeah, he's very neat and
We
tidy.
saw in your car park yesterday the best 4x4 truck. As we pulled around, we looked, and Laura's here laughing as well. A Ford Ranger, burnt orange, one of the original 17, 18 plate ones, and maybe a 20 plate. And it is held together, the front left wing, with gaffer tape, and it's smashed in and everything. And that is how and Laura said, that's how your truck should be looking. I was like, even I can't agree to that. But the fact that the gaffer tape's holding it together, I'd love to know. Do we know how long that's been like that? They're like, it's...
No,
I
don't even know
know.
if it is.
No.
We've talked about this a bit on the podcast before about the different 4x4s and what they say about who you are.
What was the Volvo sort of conclusion, if you own a Volvo?
I think that's pretty much fine, but it's all dependent on how much mud you've got splattered up the side of it.
Yeah.
And on the steering wheel.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I found muddy boot prints on the roof of our car, on the ceiling of our car the other day.
It's probably me.
I don't think it was you. I think it was the children, based on the size of the footprint. But I did find myself asking exactly how they had got there.
Well, Jim sort of tears his hair out because I'm somebody who will sit with my feet on the sort of dashboard.
So has your windscreen got footprints on it?
Yes, often, and it's not our daughter.
So I think we're pretty much in conclusion and in agreement that we approve of dirty 4x4s and we don't approve of clean ones. So,
Well said.
so the opinion is a popular one.
It's a popular opinion, isn't it?
Agreed.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Popular opinion. That
Now, what would you think if somebody hearing this thought, "Oh God, my 4x4's too clean to be socially acceptable"? If somebody then went out and deliberately muddied up their 4x4,
You've got to be careful. It's like having jeans with holes in
oh
them, but
fake rips.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of.
and
I
the
think I
skinny
could
ones
tell,
as well.
if I'm honest. I think if somebody came up with a car that had been fake,
Just-
dirtied.
put through a muddy puddle.
Yeah.
It's almost like there's got to be a layer of like dust on the inside, hasn't
Yeah.
there? Like
Yeah.
Laura said to me earlier, she was like, "What are those in the back?" And I was like, "They're dashboard wipes." Why have you got those? I was like, "Because we were coming away." That was all our truck got cleaned for. So it's but yeah, green laning. I can even recommend a very good club in London that would take you green laning. But I can guarantee your pristine 4x4
Yeah.
probably will come back with quite a few dents in it and everything.
And there are sort of authentic places, such as down the side of the seats. If there's nothing there and it's clean,
If it's not got
that's
wheat
not-
growing down the side of
Exactly.
the seat, it's not a farm car.
Genuinely,
Yeah.
or just rubbish and everything. So they're the telltale signs, I'd say.
Why is it that everything else moulds apart from a McDonald's French fry? You know that the children have dropped French fries in the back, and then you clean the car out, and you're like, they haven't had the French fries for like months, but it's almost edible. Like you question
Do
yourself,
I?
like, do I try?
Do not eat the forbidden chip.
The rogue chip.
Oh, horrible. Right, very good. So, Lockhart, Jeremy, and now you, Georgia, are the newest members of the most noble order of the Garters, and will shortly be in receipt of a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters. If you too have got a shooting confession, quandary, or query that you'd like us and our guests to help you with, or if you've got an unpopular opinion to share, or a podcast selection, or a forgotten drive, drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com.
Well, George, I can actually make the delivery even sooner.
Oh, can you?
Because
Stop.
Garter
No.
HQ
My
has
goodness
managed-
me, you are... Stop it. That's so good. Thank you so much. I said to Jake yesterday, I'm going to be honest, one of the main reasons for agreeing to come on the podcast was to get myself some of the garters. And so I'm very happy about that. Thank you very much.
The main reason that I wanted to come on is that we often sing the praises of keepers and pickers up and beaters and the people who make a shoot day happen. But I think we often fail to give enough thought to the people who, in my view, take a shoot day from being a fun day out in the countryside into a proper, brilliant social occasion. And that is the host, the hostess, the people doing the cooking. And I think it's quite easy to forget how much work goes into that side of things. And I think that's particularly true on small family shoots and syndicates where a commercial shoot will have a catering team and they're part of the day, but they've got a system and it's what they do. On small family shoots like ours, a lot goes into it, but it's possible that we sort of slightly forget about it a bit. You've already talked about a little bit, but how far in advance do you start thinking about shoot days? I mean, in some ways you could probably start thinking about next year kind of at the end of the season. Is it that far out that you start?
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, when I first started doing a bit of hosting, because of course your mum has done it for years and years actually. When did you start the shoot back up here? I can't remember.
It would have been around the time that Jim came back home, so probably 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We'd always had a couple of walkabouts,
days,
but nothing very major. And I think Jim coming home was the catalyst for starting it all back up again in a more serious fashion.
So I think this must be about the 6th or 7th year that we've been doing hosting the days here. And as I said earlier, initially flapping, very stressed. When Jim and I started going out, I was actually saying to Laura and Jake earlier, I didn't really cook very much at all. When you're living on your own, or I was living with my good friend Eliza then. So there was a lot of flapping, there was a lot of stressing, and I have this terrible quality of being a people pleaser. So the food, I was really wanting it to be, almost this, well, it was never going to be Michelin style food, but I wanted it to be quite extravagant. And actually over the years I have learned that it's no good for me. It's no good for my stress levels. I think what I've definitely learned from your mum over the years of hosting for lots of people is that it's really nice to be present with your guests. Say my mum, comparatively, she's an incredible cook, but she throws everything into that, which is lovely. But I think often she's not seen, and so she's stuck in the kitchen. And the food's amazing, yada yada. But actually, I know a lot of the guests would rather see her. So over the years, I've actually just simplified everything, and I'll often do something that can be frozen. It's very simple. For me, I want to enjoy the shoot day. I like to go out at 11's and enjoy seeing everybody there, and come back and do the bare minimum and spend the time with my friends and things. So. I mean,
but that must mean a lot of planning has to go into it before the day, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I guess probably as far out as last weekend, you're thinking.
Yeah, a couple of weeks before, I'll think about what we're doing. If I'm organised enough, I will cook it all and then freeze it a couple of weeks beforehand. We were talking earlier about what I'm going to do for the next couple of shoot days: curry, chicken pie, that sort of thing. Anything I do, has got to be able to be prepared ahead of time. But this week, I actually didn't do anything before Wednesday. Actually really started on Thursday, but I'd had a plan of what I was doing. I'd done the whole shop, everything was in. But that time has got shorter as the years have gone by, because you learned.
You've gone into a bit of a groove. Yeah.
Exactly.
What's the most stressful part?
The most stressful part, I really don't find it too stressful anymore. I think so. We have a 2-year-old daughter. That's the most stressful part of it. Logistics with
That's
her.
my goddaughter you're talking about.
Well, I know. I'm sorry, but she is very chaotic. typically, you know, she's at nursery 4 days a week, and the day before the shoot this year, I went to collect her because she was ill, and it's just typical. So wrestling the toddler and the lunch is probably the most stressful part. But you know, it's just the cooking. We host it here in the house, so we have to rearrange a lot to get 22 people around. We get trestle tables out, and so it's always tiring. It's always a bit stressful, but not too bad. And we love doing it.
But yeah, I was going to say, you love hosting parties in general.
Yeah.
So what is it that you enjoy about hosting shoot days particularly?
I love actually seeing now old friends again, you know, Jake and Laura. This is your second time coming here. You know, we don't see you sort of generally between the two. I know you see George and everybody else, but it's really nice reconnecting. We've met so many people through you, George, you know, through your brother, through Holly. That's the nicest part of it, just who you meet.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you mentioned it then, you know, 22 people around the table yesterday. You know, once upon a time, a shoot lunch would be 8 blokes.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things I love about the shoot days that we have here is that there are so many people that, generally speaking, other halves are here. The other thing, I mean, you've also alluded to this, is we are now all at a stage in our lives where there are an increasing number of kids about. How has that changed the dynamic of the whole thing, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's changed it quite a lot. I mean, your children, you know, I sort of love like my own, you know, they've grown up sort of with us as well, really. It's very, even though I didn't grow up shooting, I grew up, you know, my parents, my brother, lots of family friends, you know, big meals, suppers, you know, we used to go away together, was very much a part of my upbringing. So it's quite nostalgic. I really love that feeling, you know, when I see the kids on their little table, because we can't fit them around the table as much as we'd love to, and they're all having their kids' meals, and then they're all off. I mean, Poppy's a bit young. I was saying to a few people yesterday, I romanticised the idea of bringing out my 2-year-old on the shoot yesterday morning for a couple of drives. I was picking up with our dog Spud, and I thought, this is just going to be just lovely. It's going to be bliss. She's going to be following absolute murder. I was sweating. I was dragging her across a field because she was trying to run the other way. I had my whining dog in the other hand. So no, it wasn't.
But she looked amazing.
She looked great.
She had these best like tweed dungers on. They were
I thought,
awesome.
I have to do something. You know, something's got to detract from the behaviour. No, she looked great. I did end up phoning my mum and saying, "Can you come a little bit early and collect her, please? Because I just need to relax a bit." No, So she's still a bit young for all of it, but I just can't wait until she's, you know, and if we have another child, etc. When she's a bit older, if you guys obviously bring Toby back, this is obviously Jake's son, and Florence when she's a bit older, for them all to go out beating, you know. Awesome. I think it's just, we touched on it yesterday, I think, you know, earning a bit of pocket money.
Absolutely.
So I've got a confession to make, though. My kids were promised...
Did they beat?
They did not beat. They were very excited about the prospect of money, but not enough to actually go beat.
Oh, right, okay, yes. Well, Jim had told me the plan. He said, I have said, but actually good friends of ours, Sam and Min Birch, Sam's been on the podcast, they're 2 girls, they go out beating, often to their sort of objections, quite a lot, but they do, and they earn a bit of money, and it's great.
So on that, Toby as well, on the places he goes to, it varies from £5 to £20. So if he comes to branches, Peter is incredibly generous, but also the children there, they have to do a day's work. And Peter said before, it's not boys' country here.
Yeah.
And it's for men, you know, and the children are out there waving their flags, going through it all. And generously, Toby's like, I've got £20. Toby had more money in his wallet at the end of the shooting season than I think we did in our savings. But
so
the
funny.
crafty bugger has worked out that if he carries a loading bag, or a cartridge bag, and loads, occasionally he might get a bit more.
Not from his dad, though.
Oh, don't start this again. Dads don't tip. I keep him alive. And
Very good
but he has worked out very quickly that he's like, oh, I'll go loading today. I'm going to go and load for so and so. And you're like, have a good day and everything like that. But I think having the children out, regardless, they'd do it for free. I think all jokes aside,
Yeah.
£5, £20, what they get from interacting with adults in a shoot day environment. And the shooting is always just a very small part of the day. And I think if they can be exposed to a dinner party, quite how you've said it up there, Georgie, everyone's got an incredible, our names are laid out, they're in front. It's not just a go and grab a plate job. This is serious what you put on here, and it is amazing. All of us turn up and kindly invited to lunch, and we're sat next to people that you've thought who would, you've worked it out.
Yeah.
And for the children to grow up with that type of education, is epic. And so, long may it continue. Those shoot lunches where you get the family opportunities, the hard work goes behind it.
Well, and I think you're being quite self-deprecating and modest, because although you say that you've scaled it back, I think that you pushed the boat out quite a long way in terms of and you obviously you take precautions to make sure that it's not stressful on the day, but you're not just banging out simple dishes. And we've had curries where there's fresh naan and all this sort of stuff.
Thank you, Simon Brown.
Well, I wanted to talk about 11s because I think there's going to be some disappointed people this year.
No, I am going to do Scotch eggs again.
Are you?
I will.
Okay.
Now, I do want to bring
Did
this
you
up.
receive
So,
complaints yesterday?
Yes, I had a lot.
so I've kept quiet on this one because while we had the pork belly with the homemade avocado, which was amazing. I know you were like, it didn't work how I wanted it to. It was still brilliant.
Thank
But I do have a complaint.
Soz.
The quail egg Scotch eggs,
Yeah,
Georgia.
I
And,
know.
I've had my kind invite for... So can I have my address? I'll send you my address.
Yes,
and can you send up a box, please?
I absolutely will. Seeing as you brought the fizz, definitely. Well, actually, we did. I mean, I felt a little less pressure seeing as one of our picker-uppers who doesn't come anymore, Beamsy, he's retired his dog. I used to have to, he loved them, and I used to have to wrap one in foil, keep it aside. And so after 11s is just to keep him going throughout the day, pop it in his pocket, and he'd always, but it's just time consuming. It's a very laborious, it was sort of, it's a slightly modified version of Jamie Oliver's wee Scotch eggs recipe. And in it says, it doesn't really make a difference if you do 5 or 20, because absolute bollocks. It makes a huge difference if you're doing 5 or 20. And you can't really do them that far ahead of time because they get all soft. So maybe this is just being a little bit anal about it. But so I always, it's the night before a shoot. It's always that sort of frying.
But I think we tend to go, I'm part of the cause of this, admittedly, but we're quite elaborate at 11s. You go someplace, some shoots, 11s is a pork pie with a squirt of mustard on it.
Yeah.
And that's perfectly acceptable. There's nothing wrong with
it's
that. But we do go a bit beyond that.
We enjoy it. And I have to say, and knowing you'll probably edit this out because you won't want to hear it, but whenever you do the muntjac, venison, pheasant, partridge, it is phenomenal. It is by far the star of 11s, and it's so good. And that's relieved a lot of pressure, from having to do too much there. Your dad always does sausage rolls. They are so good, and it's just you're always very keen on using everything.
I think it's really important. I love the fact that we can use lots of stuff from the farm. All the sloe gin is from sloes harvested from the farm. Muntjac shot by Tom, who's in the beating line. I think that's really important. I love the fact that we can say that so much of it is from here. I think that it speaks to the whole ethos of what shooting's all about, actually. Yeah. But I also think that pushing the boat out that little bit more just elevates the whole experience a bit. It just makes that whole thing, for example, I was a little bit out of the shooting yesterday, didn't shoot particularly well either. But because, really, those moments when you get to socialize with people are the things that make a shoot day shine. The fact that we do have quite a lengthy 11s and that we have lots of different sort of things for people to pick at and try, and that we are always experimenting, just adds a little something to the day. But the other aspect of this is that it is a team effort. You know, as you say, Dad makes sausage rolls. I'm doing the grilling and all that sort of stuff. But the fact that we can sort of combine forces is great. But it does still always take someone to coordinate it all.
Yeah. I think we've fallen into a very good routine, really, of, you know, especially as you've sort of moved back and have a lot more to do with the shoot now. Now that you're living back on the farm, you know, you almost have your roles sort of, you know, and we kind of know what we're doing, and it works really well. But I also think, you know, it's very easy to take for granted what we have, and you know, I have a lot of friends who come beating or who have come beating for the first time ever, and it kind of really reminds you actually how lucky we are. Just that community, you know, a good friend, Tom Self, this is his second year, and he just said, I absolutely got no interest in shooting.
Yeah. But you know what? He wants to come round to my house this afternoon for me to give him advice on his beating stick.
But exactly.
How good is that? He was great value yesterday.
Yeah.
Self. He was still on the back of the beaters wagon, wasn't he? As we were driving around, I think to the second drive, wasn't it, George? Up to the and he just looks funny. He stood there. I think he was waving at you with a finger, wasn't he? I kind of Yes,
he was. Yeah.
But I love these types of shoots where the family are so invested together, and I think often you can get lost on a commercial day, and the commercial shoots which do it really well hide the fact that there is a huge team, and you think it's just effortless.
Yeah.
And you know what you guys here make it is effortless.
That's very kind of you, Jake. And I wanted to ask you about how you manage this side of things at Branches, because you do have some outside help with the catering side of it, don't you?
Absolutely. So we have the wonderful chef Laurie, who comes in and looks after our guests the night before and the night after, and she cooks. You know, it's been well documented on these. So the wood chicken curry on the night after. You know, so everything on Branches Park estate is put back onto the table. So, but during the 11s themselves, you know, much the same as you, Georgia. That's Laura and I behind the scenes. Laura will make up the soup. And you know, often Laura doesn't get the praise or the credit because Laura's either out beating, looking after children, running the dogs home, and that type of stuff. You know, so for Branches to really work, it is a behind the scenes stuff. You know, Peter is out in front, you know, with myself and guiding the day and what have you. But Gemma's also behind the scenes, you know, and she'll reset the teepee.
Yeah.
And so when you're doing stuff like that, it's so vital so that when the guns and when the beaters and the pickers all come back in, it's clean. And same with the rooms.
Yeah.
Laura tidies the rooms. You know, we don't bring in a chambermaid or anything like that. You know, I know that's not what they're called anymore, but you know,
Cleaner.
But it's one of those where you know, if there wasn't such a solid family friendship group behind a shoot day, and whether or not, and you know, at Branches, you know, for 11s, we make the sausage rolls. You know, we prepare the food, and it's a way of keeping costs down and that doesn't go on to, and not because we're trying to cut corners, but you know, I think days need to be affordable, but they shouldn't lack in value.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good way of putting it. The other thing, and you just reminded me of it, Branches Park and here are similar in that we both have quite unique 11s spaces. Oh, yes. So I don't know whose idea the teepee was.
That would have definitely been Gemma's. No, Peter, sorry, Peter, you're listening. 100% Gemma's.
But that's a lovely place because it does, you know, we've been up with you when it was sort of sleeting.
Yes.
And it was a blessed relief to get in there, actually.
So is it just a big enclosed sort of teepee or open?
will get you up, and you'll love to, and you can cast yourself in it for the day. It's one of those old-fashioned, like proper teepees, and it's canvas on the outside.
Wow.
Let's not underplay how big this thing is. It's what,
it's a
12,
monolith.
13 feet tall or something bigger.
Easily, like to the point where we were considering getting 2 Hessian bale stacks around it to stop Storm Annie from blowing it over the other day. You know, it was one of those where it has survived every storm since its, you know, kind of erection, so to speak. You know, the last and it has been known at 1 a.m. to me, the kind of like sending a message to Gemma, or Gemma saying, "We're away, can you get bales up there?" And I'm like, I'm going to have to drive on the grass, you know, and don't do that. You know? So, but it's standing the test of time, and it's wonderful because you can open the front up, or you can lock it down, and you can put the fire tower on in the middle and stuff like that.
So you can have a fire in there if it's
it will hold about 10 or so beaters. And then it will hold a team, and we do only small teams.
Yeah.
So we only have teams of 5. But then with guests, and then with, you know, Sean, new gamekeeper,
kids and dogs,
dogs, and that type of stuff, and you know, coming and going, and it's wonderful, you know. But you're new 11. I mean, you guys have got an incredible setup.
Georgia is very much the person to thank for that. So just give us the origin story of where we have 11s.
Well, it was lockdown 2020, and Jim and I, we had your other brother and his now wife staying with us. Naturally, you know, there were evenings where we thought, let's just go and do something, the two of us. We'll walk off. And so we sort of looked out and we thought, where is the sun on sort of the latest into the day? And it was this little spot. And then we used it quite a lot. And then actually your parents and yourselves and we thought this is quite fun because you can watch the sun, you get the sunset in summer, in the height of summer until about
10:30.
10:30. It really is late as the sun's up. And so we would take a trestle table, wouldn't we? We'd take a picnic and we started to use it. And then we sort of thought, okay, well, this space is so great. Let's think about putting some sort of very primal structure up there. And so Jim built, it's like a field shelter, but it's a lot nicer. It's sort of wood clad and tin roof.
3 sides.
3 sides. It's got a log burner cum fire pit in there, tables, chairs, that sort of thing. And actually for your sister's wedding.
Well, you need to, first of all.
The wildflower was then planted. We took a section of, your dad, and said, let's take a section of this arable field out of farming and put it into wildflower. Oh yes, and then we got married there.
Yes, that's what I was trying to drive you towards.
I was like, Holly had the night for her wedding there. Yeah. No, actually, I remember saying to Jim on a walk, I'd really love to get married up here. But we did. We put a marquee up there. And we were very lucky. It was a late May wedding, and it was sunny and warm, and that sort of set it all off, didn't it, really?
Yes, and, you know, we always used to have 11s in one of the barns.
Yeah.
Which was, again, you know, it's fine.
Yeah,
but
it's perfectly nice.
Being up there with the lovely views is great. And over the years, as you say, it's become more and more elaborate. We now have the stretch tent up there as well, which happily we didn't need yesterday. But, you know, we have been up there in some pretty wild weather before.
Yeah.
I remember one day we'd actually put up a sort of gazebo thing, which we then ended up having to hold down to stop it from blowing away.
We were so adamant we were going to use it, weren't we? We sort of thought, well, it's here and we're going to come rain or shine.
But I think that is in some ways indicative of our general approach to these things, which is often ambition which exceeds our abilities.
Yes. Well, I fear, George, it's always you and I who you know, we get your wife and my husband rolling their eyes saying, don't be stupid. No, we're going to do it. But I mean, it's led to some days like that, perhaps, you know, something you can laugh about after.
But I think it just adds a little bit of something special that makes it just a little bit different from somewhere else that you might go.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's really worth having.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And as a guest to these days, it's lovely to see something like that, because you go and remember it. Now, you remember every day, especially when you're a guest, and there is something about it, and everything's different. But when you come here, it's that little bit up the top there at 11's is and stuff, and with the wildflowers. And even though this time of year they aren't in their glory like they would be in May and June, but you can still see that, I don't know, there's that bit of family. You guys really have embraced the land that you're custodians of at the moment, and you've taken in, you haven't always got it right in your drives, George. You've said that, you've spent years trying to get it right. And
Dad said it when he came on the podcast. It's a 60-year experiment, and we've been experimenting with everything from the direction we do the drives in to what we have at 11's is and where we have it. And
and we'll continue to do that, I hope.
You got the stretch tent in the wrong place in the first instance.
Very sore subject.
This is a bit we don't see.
Yeah.
But, I would like to take this opportunity just to wrap up this little section of the podcast to thank you, Georgia, publicly for all that you do for our shoot, because it is a lot of work and you carry it off like a swan. Nobody sees the frantic paddling that goes on below the surface, and it all runs very smoothly. Okay. And everybody, most importantly, has a fantastic time. Just out of interest, what time did the last people leave yesterday?
Eliza will always be the last one to leave, and that was about 8:15. So really quite tame. Although that's a good sort of.
Well, we came back in at
day,
4, so.
Yes, 4-hour lunch.
Yeah, it was a big lunch.
Yeah,
it was a big lunch.
We did have a 12:30 a.m. shoot day once, didn't we, George? Oh, fine. Was it? Okay.
I actually asked George that question earlier, so I'm going to ask you. What's the latest it's ever, apart from the Mad New Year's Eve one? Which
I think we've had a past midnight one before, not New Year's Eve. That's when the Indian leg wrestling came out, Jake. We were talking about this earlier.
I'm quite glad I missed that.
Yes, yeah. But that I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it now. No. I love a bit of slow gin too. So going from 11 till.
But it was really good because we came in at 4, and by 7, everyone had eaten incredibly well. The food yesterday was the shepherd's pie was amazing. How you managed to get the vegetables as well hot, and for 22 people, and there was enough for seconds for all of us, wasn't there? The puddings were incredible, but it got to 7 o'clock.
Shout out to Misha, by the way, who did the amazing chocolate pudding.
Absolutely, and they were lovely. And then, but by 7 o'clock, we were like, it felt like it was midnight. And I woke up this morning without a hangover.
Without one. That's the best thing.
It's one of those where we lay there last night. We'd had a bath. We were in bed by 9 o'clock. I woke up this morning. I was like doing the check. Toes are working. Fingers are working, because you're in the 40s now. And everything. Just check all the backs a little bit. And then you're like, hang on, I don't have a hangover. What's going on here? And because we were sensible, Georgia.
Well, I know. But also, my friends, we're all the same now. Why would you do... We actually now New Year's Eve is a lunch, so we can really give it some at lunch and still be in bed by 9 p.m. on New Year's Eve.
That's what's nice about a shoot lunch, isn't it? You come in, it was a lovely day yesterday. It was perfect, and then from that, it was one of those where challenging birds.
Now,
do we want to? I don't. It's embarrassing. Oh God!
Who are you embarrassing?
Can I just say Laura called me Moses, so I'm not attributing to the following.
Yes. So we finished the day with 48, but we fired more than 350 shots between us as a team, which
is embarrassing.
Now, there are some suggestions that our friend who was given charge of the clicker might have panicked slightly.
Yes, that one.
And I also heard it rumoured that Jason would come along at the end of the drive, look at the clicker, and add a few more on.
Well, he can't, because on the final drive, when the birds were going over, and I'm not going to name names, guns to my right, they had an incredibly good drive. It didn't connect with many, and one got shot just at the end, and Jason just shouts out, "Finally!" So for the keeper to see one of his birds shot, and my excuse was, it was the first day of your season, be respectful. I'm going to hold that one.
You were I'm glad you heard me shout, Jake, over.
I did, and it was the best shot I think I've ever shot.
It was brilliant.
But that drive is special. I really like that drive, and it's and equally Laura and her young dog Shadow. We went looking for that cock pheasant.
That was great.
It was lovely because he found he ran after it. He got up to it and he was a bit like, "Oh, what do I do now? I haven't been told about runners yet." He's only 2 and just into his beginning of his first real season. And it got retrieved and it was dealt with by the others. But it was one of those where that will be lasting memories.
Exactly, and there had been 5 or 6 spaniels in before him who couldn't find it, so I think that's extra special, really.
Well, it was. I think the whole day just holds some magical memories. Certainly, the camaraderie between George and Jim, because there was some
mainly expletives.
That's why I'm being careful on what I say. But there was one point, and give credit to your husband and to your brother, where he pulled down some incredibly good partridge, and Hampshire really can show those hedge hoppers which then decide they want to go stratospheric within about 4 beats of their wings. And then it was Laura, I could just hear in the back going, shit, he can shoot. And then it was just one of those where all of a sudden it's like, don't worry, Jim will get it. And then I'm sure Laura at some point say, why can't you shoot more like Jim?
I'm cutting that out. Well, Georgia, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. As you know, we normally finish these podcasts off by asking our guests to describe their desert island shooting. But because you don't really shoot, we have recently been playing a new game, which we call Dream Team. So what instead I'm going to ask you to do is to pick 3 shoot day guests who you'd like to have in the line here. And you can pick 1 dead person, 1 person who's still living, and 1 fictional character to come on the shoot day. So if we start with your fictional character.
I was discussing this earlier with Jake's wife, Laura, not being swayed at all, but, just voicing my sort of opinions. And really, for both of our sake, we've decided Tommy Shelby from Peaky Blinders is our fictional character. Great shot. Conversation not brilliant, I don't think. But an interesting guest, and a bit of eye candy for us, so, can't really go wrong. The other one, living. So this was a bit of a toss-up for me between my favourite actor, Jamie Dornan. Jeremy Clarkson, I think, was one, because he's just hilarious. And I know he likes shooting, and he'd be a great person to have. And the other one, Louis Theroux, who's got nothing really to do
Louis Theroux's a great shout.
I just love him. His conversation would be, and you can guarantee he'd make it quite interesting. I can't imagine he's in shooting, if I'm honest.
No, but he would ask the right questions throughout the day. You imagine Louis on the bus.
Yeah, he'd be the sort of shot who's very self-deprecating. Oh, no, I don't think I connected with anything, despite having shot really well. That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That right kind of humility.
He would. And he would just... I'd feel so happy if I was sat next to him.
At dinner, he'd be amazing. But his questioning of the... Yeah. And I guess he would be like, I really like being here, and that kind of very relaxed...
I'd love to see a Louis Theroux shooting documentary. Wouldn't that be great?
Let's invite him.
If you're a TV producer and you're listening to this...
My dream could become a reality.
Absolutely. And if there isn't a peg, I will come and photograph the day you're on, because, I've got a feeling that every Brown, and you make up a whole team now, don't you? With Paddy.
Well, yeah, with all the hangers on, yeah.
With wives and stuff like that. So a Brown day with Louis Theroux. Oh, my goodness, this is becoming a TV thing. Louis, BBC, come on.
I actually think it could have
legs. We'll reach out to his podcast, because I know he does a very, very good one. But I wonder if he could do a day where it was showing and the nuances behind a day. So it helped to show what we do, because there isn't a better shoot to showcase our sport and our traditions and our way of life than here, because you all play such a part in it. The commercial days, the small farm shoot days, everyone has their own thing, but here is just emulates what shooting is all about.
And finally,
no longer with us, Sean Locke, because who doesn't love Sean Locke? He would bring the comedy. He would be the best dinner party guest I could think of.
Yes, he'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and
The
we were
dryness to the jokes.
dryness.
I
Yeah,
would love to see him sat opposite your father-in-law.
Yeah.
How good would Simon and Sean Locke be together?
I
Because
know.
Simon equally has got that
imagine it.
dry sense of humour
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
I think
and they're not sort of, because obviously I don't go out shooting. They're my dinner party guests on a day like that. So that's what I came up with.
Well, Georgia, like I said already, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Thank you for everything you do for our shoot. You do help to make it what it is.
Thank you very much.
Before we go, all that remains for me to say is that there is a final reminder that you can get your hands on a pair of the very exclusive Guns on Pegs podcast shooting sock garters by sending us your shooting dilemmas for us to resolve, or by sending us your unpopular opinions or your forgotten drives, your podcast suggestion, your dream team suggestions. Drop us an email to pod@gunsonpegs.com, and if we read it out in the next episode or any future episodes, we will send you some garters. Jake and I will be back in a couple of weeks' time with another episode with Avian and Sam. But until then, thanks very much for listening, and goodbye.